Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit RoyMatlockJr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, we are back once again talking money. Roy Matlock Jr. here, and if you're tuning in, we are going to be talking throughout the rest of this year about getting it together for 2026, because you just don't want to have another year pass by that you don't say, hey, I got it going on the right way. And so I want to encourage you also to visit RoyMatlockJr.com. We have our 2026 checklist webinar that will be coming up, and that will be on the 13th of December. And you can tune in and really see it live, and we'll be giving you a checklist, everything you need to have in place so you can feel good about your money. But today we're going to kind of review some of that stuff and just think in terms of why you want to get it on track, and some ideas to get you going and get you excited about being financially set. If you get your act together, what ends up happening is you will reduce your stress, and the difference between your income and your outgo, and the difference in the increase by having money saved, and is going to take the stress away, and that's what we talk about. So anyway, so some of the major things that we need to start with is not making mistakes. The typical mistake will cost between $50,000 and $500,000 over your lifetime. You say, how could it be that big? I said, well, let me give you one example. So let's say that you can't get started saving money because you made some mistakes. Maybe you had a car accident. What is a car accident? That's when you go buy a new car, and you buy that new car and you've got a big payment now that you could have been saving money. But instead, for the next 5 or 6 years, you went and messed it up, and you got this big car payment. And that's the first mistake that people make. They have car accidents, and then you have to learn from it. I had a car accident 40 years ago, back in the 80s, and I thought it was cool. And I didn't have one car accident. I went and bought 2 cars at the same time, 2 new cars, and I had $600 a month in car payments. This was 40 years ago, and I was like, man, this is not fun, when you're having a hard time paying your bills. And then I went and bought a house, and, had a house and 2 car payments, and I'm doing great, until I found out I was spending more than I was making. And so then I went and made a decision, and I said, I'm not going to have car payments anymore. And the other thing is I'm never going to buy new cars anymore. So I finally got out from underneath that. I bought 2 VW diesel Rabbits. At that time, they would get 50 miles a gallon, and if you got on the interstate, you thought you were going to get run over, because I think the top speed on those things were about 80 miles an hour. And so you do that, but I saved a bunch of money, and I eventually got rid of that $600 car payment. And guess what happened? I drafted it into a mutual fund account, and that was the beginning of me really starting to make progress. And so you want to not make mistakes. Credit card debt, car payments, not having an emergency fund, other mistakes we see that come into play. People don't have a will or a trust, and then you work your whole life and you'd like to leave something behind and make it easy, and then what happens is all you did was leave behind a fight, or you left behind probate, and the attorneys are able to get it, and so on. So outdated, what are some of the things? Outdated beneficiaries, no will or trust, not having proper insurance, not having enough going automated into your retirement plan so you have a plan. One of the things that's very cool, if you want to learn something, go to sec.gov and then look for the financial calculator, and you can actually yourself, you can go and say, I have a goal of $1 million. And if I get 10% and I've got this much money set aside already, what do I need to do each month? And that is your financial independence number. So you then have a number that says, hey, $188 plus the fact I've got 50 grand saved, I got 40 years, that's going to hit my goal. All right. And then it'll show you different interest rates. We do that. I think it's a great thing there. So then what happens is you have no tax plan. That's another checklist. I see people all the time. I can tell you story after story after story of people not taking advantage of not only their tax deductions by putting their money into a 401k. I see them not even putting into a 401k when they're getting matching funds. And I'm like, hold on a second. If you put in 3%, they're going to give you a match up to 3% or up to 6%. So you get 100% return on your money plus a tax deduction, and you're not doing it? I mean, really? I mean, free money, that kind of stuff. And so no tax plan, paying taxes on money you're not using. That's another thing, means that you have to go to work and every month to pay the taxes on the money you're not even benefiting from. We want to get tax deferred growth if we can. See, all these mistakes, these are things that are missing. They get out to retirement, they're too aggressive in their investments. 2006 market top dropped 42%, took 6 years to recover. That's not good if you're needing to pull money and you're about to retire. And so we have those kind of things. We don't have long-term care coverages. We don't have any type of income guarantee. I'm going on and on and on and on about what happens. So today's show is we're going to go through this, and when you really want to see it, you need to jump on our webinar that'll be December 13th, and we'll be talking about that. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start the plan, and we always start it with a defense. A defense is designed to buy you time, all right? It's going to buy you time until you get financial independence. So what do I mean by that? Insurance, emergency funds are things that buy you time. So let me give you an example. So you have a emergency, but you have money set aside for that. Then it isn't an emergency anymore. It's just a bump in the road. But if you don't, then it might cause you to go in debt, or it might cause you to have to pull from a retirement account. And so what we want to do is we want to have a defensive philosophy, and it protects money that you haven't earned yet and your money hadn't accumulated. So we're going to do that. So when we come back from the break, we're going to get into the defense, the checklist on the defense of what you need to be doing. And then we will further move into the offense with the idea that one day you're going to have it checked off. And that's what we do. We try to help you implement. My name is Roy Matlock Jr. I would encourage you, go to roymatlockjr.com and get educated. We have our podcast. We have downloads. We'll be getting into the budget. Download the budget worksheet, and we will help you get your budget on track, which is one of the foundations of getting things started. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Got it.
Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit roymatlockjr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, we're back, and we are talking checklist and getting your checklist together for building your financial plan for 2026. And let's just check off the boxes and make sure that we have everything going to where then you don't worry about it anymore. And so we're going to get started with the defense. And some of the things that I believe are the most important part that you need to have on your defense is protecting your income and pre-labeling what you're going to do with your spending. So the first thing you can do is you can go to roymatlockjr.com and download the budget worksheet. What this worksheet's going to do is give you a plan to where you can spend money in advance, all right, and set it aside in advance to keep you from going in debt. A budget is the foundation for getting your finances straight, and it's not an accounting system. It's a budget. You know, companies go in and they budget X amount of dollars for different items. And at the end of the year, one of the things I've always said, and I've been doing this, I spent about 3 hours just a few days ago just going through all of my expenses for my business and for my personal expenses. And when I started looking at it, I mean, it's, so many different things. And so the first thing I always do is I make the assumption that this is my income and I have no expenses. If I didn't have this expense, would I rehire it back? And that could be subscriptions or different things that you spend money on a regular basis, whatever it may be. In your business, it could be, certain employees, if they're not doing their job and they're not doing their job, and if you knew before you hired them that they were not workers, and would you have hired them knowing what you know? And if you wouldn't, that's the time when you start, cutting back. That's how businesses stay in business, by making sure they have A players all the time. And if people are not A players, guess what you have to do? You have to find somebody new. And it's the same with your personal finances. Don't spend money on things you need to be in control of it. And so the first thing we do when it comes to a budget is we start out and we take our income. We then take and look at what our recurring expenses are. I like to automate those. Once I automate them, meaning bill pay, automatic draft, whatever it may be, I also want to make sure that I have savings built into that. And so I'm going to do that. And then I'm also going to add in there things like maintenance and things that are not recurring. It'll be car purchases for in the future. So if you think you've got a car, you're going to need to spend $15,000 on a car in 2 years, you need to take and set aside that money, and it's going to go into this big account where all your money comes into. Well, I call it the draft account in my actual checkbook. It's called the draft account. From the draft account, I'm going to have all the expenses going out, all the savings going out, and it's going to start growing. All right. I'm making the assumption I've got 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund set aside. If I don't have that, that's going to be part of my first line of defense, which is I'm going to get my emergency fund in place, and I'm going to spend less than I make. As money comes in, I have allocated everything except for my weekly expenses. My weekly expenses, if you're married, you would have 2 debit cards. It's an easy way of doing it. And you choose and decide about what it's going to take for you to live during the week, getting gas, eating out, doing all the stuff you do. And then I would recommend every morning, I do this, I've been doing this forever, I check my bank balances every day. There's never a day that doesn't go by. I check my bank balances and I look at how much money I've made. And so I do that. Then once that is set up, I know at the end of the week how much money is left to stay within my budget, and then I'm coming in at or below the budget. How about that? And that's a simple plan, and you can do that. I used to use cash. Now you can use your card. But at the end of the day, that's the way you set up a budget. We're going to have an emergency fund. Why do we have the emergency fund? So, well, the emergency fund, it's not getting it's not growing. No, it is growing. It's just in a different way. Here's how it's growing. It's probably in a money market. That's typically what we tell people. That might get you 3%, something of that nature. But what is the rate of return you get on your emergency fund? It's the fact that you raise your deductibles on your car insurance, and that saves you a bunch of money. So have a $500, take it to $1,500 or $1,000 deductible. And the reason you're doing that is you can take on the additional risk of $500 to $1,500. So, well, I wouldn't like it if I had a wreck, but if it cost me $1,000, so what? It saved me $50 a month on my car insurance or whatever it may be. You do the same thing with your homeowner's insurance. $2,500 deductibles. If you've got an older car, then you drive the car and you drop the collision coverage on it. And what does that save you? I don't know, $150 a month. Now, if you wreck your car, you're responsible, but you're taking on the risk because you're like, if I wreck my car, I wouldn't like it, but I'm saving this much money per month and it's being put into something. And as a result, I can afford to take the loss. I do the same thing with my health insurance. I raise my deductibles. I've always believed that you go with high deductibles, and now I go with health shares, which allow you to cut cost. And what's interesting is in the health insurance business, Have you ever gone to the doctor and asked them what the cash price is? You'll be surprised how little it is. I went and got an MRI done, and an MRI on my hand, and it was $1,700 for the MRI if I turned it into my insurance company. And I said, what's the cash price? They said $475. And I'm like, that'll work. Here's the $475. I wasn't going to reach my deductible anyway. And so you'll find that I actually did that almost 34 years ago. And the reason I know almost 34 years ago, my daughter's birthday is coming up, and she'll be 34. And I negotiated in advance with the hospital for the labor and delivery cost. I paid in advance, cut the cost, big time, been doing that forever. And the reason I did that is because I had the money to be able to make it happen, and I paid it up front. And so these are things you do. You can do if you have disability income insurance, you lengthen the time before it starts paying. You go from 90 days to maybe 180 days, whatever it may be. But all of these things are because you have 3 to 6 months of liquid cash that you can get to that's not penalized. That's your rate of return on it. So you're making a bunch of money on the emergency fund. So then what we do is we take that money, that once we have it set aside, we are then locking in and making sure we protect our income. Our income is our most important tool to becoming wealthy. If you lose your income or your family loses your income, they're wiped out. You think about it. If you had a car and you totaled the car and you didn't have insurance on it, you could walk. You could take an Uber. You could take a bus. You could do that. If you even had a home and it burned down and you didn't have insurance on it, you could move in with the in-laws. You could rent an apartment. You could put a tent out. You could do something, right? But if you lose your income, can't do nothing. Can't do any of that stuff. And so when we come back, we're going to talk about how to protect your income. Your income is the most important thing to your financial plan. Some of the things I always tell people, if you're not making all the money, if you feel like you're underpaid, good chance you don't like what you're doing. So if you're wanting to move forward, one of the first keys is you got to look at what the most important thing that there is to do is to move forward, which is have a great income and do something that you like doing. I'm getting ready to be 65. I've been doing this gig for 40 years, helping people with their money. People say, when are you going to retire? I'm like, never. Why would I retire? It's easy for me to do what I do because I'm good at it. Why would I ever retire? I like it. Why would I ever retire? Why would I ever let my income stop when I can keep doing it? Find something you like and you have a chance to move forward. I want to encourage you, go to roymatlockjr.com, download all of our free resources, and register for our 2026 checklist. It's coming up. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit roymatlockjr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, we are going into segment 3, and today is the checklist, and we're working on the checklist, and I want to encourage you to get the full checklist at our 90. We've got 90 minutes that we're going to send you the checklist. You're going to check off the list, and we're going to get you started before 2026 with a plan of financial independence, that you have a checklist that you checked all the boxes, or if you haven't checked them all, you're going to be on the way to checking them. And you're also going to know which ones are unchecked. And so if you're tuning in now, we are talking about the defense I talked about all the reasons for an emergency fund and how to get a budget on track. If you want to hear this, if you've missed it, you can also listen to the podcast. Each section will go through, and once this airs, it will be always on podcast where you can listen to it. Let me give you an idea. If you can handle listening to me, then make your drive time an educational time. Make it your classroom and listen to, as you're driving, something that will help you financially, which is the podcast, and listen to that and get your game on. That's how you do things. You learn, what you don't know will definitely hurt you, and what you don't know about money will really, really hurt you. And so what we've got is, there's 200 of them in there. You could listen from now on, all right, and learn about money and get your act together. And so what we're going to do, so we've talked about a budget and an emergency fund. We're now talking about the most important thing you can protect is your income. So there's some things that you got to look at. What we do is we protect our income until we have investment income that will protect us in such a way that we'll never run out of money. My mother is 102 years old, and they were one of my very first, my mom and dad, clients. We got them started in investing in mutual funds, and I can tell you that since they started, I know they've averaged better than 10%. My mother's 102. She's not worrying about money because the money is making money all the time because we had it invested. And so my dad always used to say, make money while you sleep. And the idea behind that is that, your expenses go on all the time. So you want to have your income going on all the time. And he did it initially with rental properties. And he had to have rental properties. And he says, rent is not monthly. Rent goes on all the time. They just pay it monthly, but it's for living there. So they have access for 24 hours. So what we're really charging people is for the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to have access to a place to live. So that means that I'm getting paid not only during the day, I'm getting paid while I sleep. And you start thinking about that, making money while you sleep. That's the way you want to do it. And you do that with investment income. Until you have investment income, you have to protect it. How do you protect it? Well, all insurance does is buy you time to get yourself financially independent. To give you an example, most people, when they pay their house off and they don't have a house payment, they still keep insurance because it's a big risk, but you don't have to, but you most likely do, and you protect it, and you say, for a small amount of money, I'm going to protect it. But when you get financially independent, there are things that you may not need to, buy anymore. For instance, we start with buying term insurance. What is term life insurance? It pays for a period of a term. So if you're 30 years old, you probably are going to want to have term insurance until you're 60 years old. So you might purchase a 30-year term policy. If you're 45, you might buy a 20-year term policy. If you're 55, you might buy a 10 or a 15-year term. What does that mean? That means that the premium and coverage will stay the same for the length of the term, and then it will increase. Most people can get a $500,000 to $1 million or more of insurance, death benefit, for around $100 a month. If you're young, you can get way more than that. And so what happens is, if you're out there, you being the money machine, and what I mean by the money machine, you get up every day, you work, you pay your bills, you protect your income. Why do you protect your income? Because if they lost your income, say you have kids, like in my case, I had 4 little ones, all right, and 4 kids and house and all those things, everybody was propped up and living as a result of me earning money. So if I miss that, if something happens to me, death or disability, what's going to happen to those dependent on it? Well, they're in big trouble, especially if you have children who can't take care of themselves to begin with. So how do you buy term insurance? Well, typical rule of thumb is about 10 to 15 times your income. So here would be an example. If you're making $100,000 a year and you wanted to protect that, if you had $1.5 million in death benefit, that could be invested and it would pay back at 6 or 7% your income, and it would produce that income from then on out. That would be an example of how you calculate it. You might go ahead and calculate paying your debt off, setting aside money for college, protect your income, different things like that. But the bottom line is you buy term, and it's cheap. And if you don't have it, it's just no excuse. No excuse not to have term, because it's just inexpensive and it provides in the event something happens. So that's the first product. Disability income is another one that is a defensive product. In many cases, you have disability income options through your work. And the idea is if you're unable to do your job and you want to make sure that you buy, if you have a very specialized, say you're a doctor or a surgeon or anything's very specialized, you want to make sure that if you become disabled, that you buy coverage that it will cover you in the event you can't do what you're trained to do, not that you can't do anything. I know I have a person I know that he was a surgeon and he had back problems from surgery. He can do all kinds of things, but he just couldn't do the surgery anymore. So he had disability income that enabled him to be able to continue to get paid. If you're interested in finding out how that works, we have a insurance marketplace where we can shop all of that for you: term insurance, disability income, health shares, all the things that we talked about. We have referral sources on all of it, or we do it ourselves. So we're building the checklist. So check off term insurance, disability income, health share, property and casualty. That's home and auto, renters, also a personal liability policy, umbrella policy. We're checking off the boxes. That way, if we get in a wreck, we get sued, we're in business. We're okay. We do that. You'll also look at permanent life insurance. You can do that. That would be a smaller portion of the death benefit, but something that you can keep forever. There's a lot of different ones on that. Bottom line is, don't go without things like that. So now we're building the defense, budget, emergency fund, protecting our income. And if in fact you have what I call bad debt, we want to help you fix that. What is bad debt? Bad debt's, number one, you can't afford it. It's causing you problems. Number two, it's tied to something that goes down in value. So therefore, you're buying it and consuming it, typically consumer debt. That would be credit card, car payments, stuff like that. So what we want to do is we want to stop the bleeding. The budget stops the bleeding, and then we go in and start paying it down. There's a lot of ways to pay it down. You can choose to pay extra money, minimum payments to everything, and apply all the extra money you have to the smallest debt, and then take that payment and bump it. If you have equity in your home and you get yourself on a budget, you can debt consolidate through a home equity line of credit. That will allow you to, get fixed once. But if you don't have a good budget in place, it's possible you would go back into the same problem. So if you want help, that's what we do. We'll start with a phone call. You can visit roymatlockjr.com, or you can call 615-843-2999. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit roymatlockjr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, we're winding up, and this is your checklist, and I would encourage you go to roymatlockjr.com and register for our webinar that will be coming up on December 13th, and it's the 2026 checklist, and it's the check-off that you can check. We're going to send you a checklist where you can go in yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and it's going to give you a list of what you're missing and what you need to get done. And we're going to get into detail. It's going to be a great webinar. We do webinars. If you're just tuning in right now, we do them the second Saturday of every month. We come up with something educational. It's like your classroom of finance. If I were you, I would jump on as much as you can. We also, if you're on our email list, we send you replay links, and we have it every way you can get it. You can watch it. You can listen to it. I mean, it's everything. And, you know, the other thing, I would force my kids into doing it. I would bribe them. That's what I did. Bribe, you know, how do you bribe them? Well, we're going to open up a mutual fund for you, you know, but you got to listen. All right. I put them into that family financial workshop where they had to do all that stuff. And that's the kind of stuff you do if you want to get things going. So let's finish up the defense. We talked about budget, emergency fund, protect your income, get out of consumer debt, and never go back. You know, from there, we look at the will and the trust. I can tell you every story about bad things that have happened because of not keeping beneficiaries up. I had a client one time that got a divorce, and then the ex-husband died, and there was a 401k. It was about $300,000 in the 401k. And he never changed the beneficiaries. So she called me up. She says, what do I do? I said, well, you know, the problem you got is that, you know, it's there's tax implications. You can't just hand over the money. And we started talking about how we would do it, and she felt bad about it. And then guess what happened? Two of the brothers showed up on the front door, tried to strong arm her. She was planning on giving them the money. And we were even working on a plan to try to figure it out. And they strong armed her. And you know what I told her? Just keep it. All right. And she did. And so, you know, all good deeds never go unpunished, right? She was attempting to do something, and I had that happen. So that's a beneficiary mistake. Let me give you another one. You're married for a second time, and here's an example. Married for the second time, you both have kids, and you don't have anything set up. Who gets the house? The one with the last one standing? Is that it? So you got to outlive your spouse so your kids can get something? Or no, we can just fight over it because you don't have anything. Happens all the time. Or you have a business and you have a partnership, and suddenly you're in business with their spouse that doesn't know anything about the business. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right. So how do we fix this? First thing we do is we review the beneficiaries. That's on the checklist. We set up a living trust, which outlines in advance and avoids probate. What is probate? Probate is a place where people steal your money. And here's how they steal the money. They say, well, they owed me this. I'm going to file a claim against, you know, the will. Well, if you avoid probate, they never get to that point. Or if that doesn't happen, you can just give it over to the probate attorneys that are helping you get your money that you wanted to leave behind. There's spendthrift clauses to where you don't want to hand over millions of dollars or whatever it may be to someone young, and where they can go through it immediately before they are old enough to really protect it. Spendthrift clause, you could say, upon my death, I'm going to distribute 25% of the money and nothing else for 10 years. That is a spendthrift clause. You can do multiple spendthrifts if you want to do it. The idea behind that is if the money was invested and there was a spendthrift on it, and you let 25% go and nothing happened for 10 years, 10 years later, that money will be more than it started with, and you can let another 25% go. Or you can do all these different things. That is with a living trust. It also would include a financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, living will. And so those are things that you need. If you don't have one of those, which is 70% of the population, that might be something you want to consider. We can help you do that. Visit RoyMatlockJr.com. We have a service that not only can get you instant life insurance, term life insurance, takes about 10 minutes. It also includes a will and trust that goes along with it at no additional cost. Lastly, on the defense, long-term care is something that as you get older, you want to look at. There's a lot of ways to do it. Annuities now tend to be the way you can do it. You can add riders to annuities. Also, you might look at lifetime income guarantees so you never outlive your money. So now we've done that. We've got the defense kind of set up. We're going to hit the offense. The offense is pretty simple. Number one, always have money automatically drafted out of your paycheck or out of your checking account. As simple as that is, people don't do it. Netflix figured it out. They figured it out. The gym memberships, they figured it out. Now even the car wash has figured it out, that if they can ever get you started, you're probably not going to stop. Think about that. So it just keeps going on. You say, yeah, I need to cancel that, that kind of deal. This is the time of the year you start canceling things that you're not using. So, I need to get rid of that. Well, let me tell you what happens. When you get a draft on your bank account, go into your investment account, maybe your Roth IRA, you'll be just the same. You just will get used to it. And then at the end of the year, you'll say, this is cool. I got more money. Money's growing. I'm feeling better. This is cool. It just keeps doing it. I don't have to do nothing. I just have to get up in the morning, go to work, and automatically it goes into my investment account. Here we go. It's game on. I'm going to get financial independent. I got my FIN number. The number I need, I'm doing it. I need to save $688 a month. And guess what? I got it happening. It's happening automatically. How do I cancel it? I don't know. It's a pain like all the rest of them. No, it's not. You can stop at any time, just like you can on those others, but you get into the habit of doing the most important thing there is, and that is called pay yourself first. So we do that. Where do we put it? Well, we put it with professional management. Let me give you some ideas. Number one, you're not going to outperform the professional money managers. If you think you're going to buy individual stocks and options and all that kind of stuff, you're going to lose your money more than likely. Very seldom have I ever seen anyone be able to do it. And it was funny. I had a doctor one time. He told me, yeah, I do all my own investing, like he was that smart. And I said, really? I said, yeah, I do the same thing. I said, when I have any kind of major health issue, I just Google it. And then that way I can figure it out, on my own, treat myself, all that kind of stuff. And so, but it's that way. Most of the time, you don't put the time into it. You don't have the expertise. You don't have the resources. So go with professionals. Here's when you put the risk money. You own a business, all right? You own your business. You're into it. You're an expert in it. Go buy some equipment and expand your business and make a big return on it. And then take a portion of your money and put it into retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs if you work for a nonprofit. Put it with professional money management. Depending on where you're at, we asset allocate it from very growth oriented to more conservative based on your time horizons and your risk tolerance, based on talking to you and getting to meet you. It's been proven that over time, if you get with a financial advisor, Vanguard did a 25-year study, after fees, you make about 3% extra. Why? Because you got somebody paying attention to it, reallocating it, helping you through some of the markets that don't do as well. Dollar cost averaging gives you the chance to put in money monthly. If the market's up, you buy less shares that are expensive. If the market's down, you buy more shares at a lower price. The whole idea is to buy low and sell high. When you retire, we do the same things. We look at different models. So if you have a portion of your money in guaranteed income, a portion of your money in something that is more protected against the market, at the end of the year, if the market's up, we're going to take some of it off the top, reallocate again, and put it into something more conservative. If the market's down, that means the reallocation will be we're buying from the more conservative money into the stuff that's down over a long period of time. We're always reallocating, always dollar cost averaging to get us going in the right place. Then when we retire, we start working on income plans. Income plans would be, let's get a guaranteed lifetime income with a portion of our money to go along with our Social Security. Maybe we've got other things that are out there. We choose where we're going to pull from. Maybe we have an insurance policy. Maybe we have an annuity. Maybe we have, taxable investments. We have Roths. We have 401ks, IRAs, all that different things that are made up. We've got all these income streams. When you have income streams to choose from, now what we do is we choose where to pull that gives us the best outcome, mostly from a tax standpoint. I always tell people we have buckets. We have conservative investment buckets. We have aggressive investment buckets, and then we have something in the middle. All right. So we have the very conservative, very aggressive, something in the middle. We're going to probably be happy about something every year, and then we're going to reallocate. We have tax buckets. We have taxables. We have tax-free, and we have tax-deferred. So we're going to go in and we're going to choose from our tax buckets and our risk buckets, and we're going to put together a plan that's going to put us in place a system. And that system is part of the checklist. So let's go through the checklist. We have a defensive checklist, budgets, emergency funds, debt, insurance, all those kind of things to get you going. We have an offense. Our offense is tax deferral, investment allocations, rebalancing, having a financial advisor to work with that keeps you on track. It's like your coach. And so what do you think would happen if you had somebody like me telling you how to do it on a consistent basis? Do you think you might do a little bit better? That's what happens when you get with a financial advisor. I eat, sleep, dream about it. That's what I do. That's the stuff I do. Money, that's what we do. I would encourage you, go to RoyMatlockJr.com. You can also listen to the podcast, Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hour, and visit us and register for this upcoming checklist, 2026 checklist. I'll talk to you next week.